we talk about attraction, society often paints an image of youthful energy, charm, and impulsive romance. But what truly shocks people is how the psychology of older women reshapes that entire picture. Their approach to attraction is not impulsive. It is intentional, layered, and deeply psychological. When an older woman flirts, she's not merely expressing interest, she's testing emotional depth, intelligence, and connection. Older women have a remarkable ability to blend subtlety with power. They no longer seek validation, they understand their worth. This self-assurance gives their flirtation a completely different energy. Their tone, eye contact, and body language carry quiet confidence. They don't chase attention. They attract it effortlessly through emotional presence. Their calmness becomes magnetic because it contrasts with the chaos of modern superficial attraction. Psychologically, many older women have mastered nonverbal communication, the unspoken signals that create emotional resonance. A soft smile, a slight tilt of the head, or a teasing remark isn't just playfulness, it's a form of controlled emotional expression. They flirt not to impress, but to explore connection. Their body language often reveals openness mixed with control, curiosity mixed with boundaries. This balance is what makes their energy so captivating. Another shocking truth lies in how they read emotional frequencies. Older women are emotionally intelligent. They notice small things, the tone of your voice, the pauses between your words, the way you look when you think. They mirror your energy, but refine it. When they flirt, they're not competing with you for attention. They're harmonizing with your presence. It's a psychological dance where respect and attraction intertwine. Their humor also reveals psychological sophistication. They know how to use wit as a bridge between comfort and curiosity. They tease not to test dominance, but to measure connection. Every playful comment carries a layer of emotional awareness. They sense when to pull you closer with warmth and when to keep you curious with mystery. Their words might sound light, but the intent behind them is precise, designed to connect mind before body, spirit before surface. Unlike younger women who might flirt to be noticed, older women flirt to feel seen. There's a depth behind their energy. They value being understood, not admired from afar. They often seek partners who listen, who reflect emotional stability rather than loud attention. That's why calm confidence is their biggest turn on. They're drawn to emotional stillness. A man who doesn't need to prove himself but simply embodies grounded strength. Flirting, for them, becomes a conversation of energy. It's not about quick attraction, it's about emotional alignment. When they laugh, it's genuine. When they look into your eyes, it's deliberate. They use silence as much as speech. Every pause, every gaze, every shift of tone is a psychological move. They flirt in dimensions, physical, emotional, and intellectual all at once. Psychologically, older women flirt with a sense of ownership over their experiences. They have loved, lost, healed, and grown. That emotional history gives their charm authenticity. They no longer rely on external validation because their self-worth comes from within. This is why their presence often intimidates those who don't understand it. Their confidence is silent, their seduction effortless, and their energy deeply grounded. Older women carry a higher level of emotional intelligence that deeply influences the way they communicate and flirt. This emotional intelligence isn't just about being sensitive or understanding feelings. It's about mastering the art of human connection. Over time, women develop a stronger ability to read people, interpret moods, and respond with awareness rather than impulse. Their life experiences, heartbreaks, and victories all contribute to a refined understanding of emotional dynamics. When an older woman communicates, she doesn't just speak, she feels her way through conversations. She observes the energy in the room, notices the smallest shifts in tone, and senses emotional tension before it's even expressed. This sensitivity gives her a certain psychological edge, especially in the context of attraction and flirtation. Unlike younger women, who might flirt out of curiosity or excitement, older women flirt out of connection and intention. They know that the key to meaningful attraction lies in emotional resonance, not physical perfection. When she engages with someone, her communication carries depth. Every word, smile, and gesture is backed by awareness. She listens with her whole self. She knows when to lean in, when to pull back, and when silence speaks louder than speech. This makes her presence magnetic. People around her feel seen, understood, and emotionally acknowledged. And that, in itself, is a form of powerful flirtation. Her emotional intelligence allows her to create comfort and tension at the same time, a delicate psychological balance that draws people in naturally. Older women understand emotions not just as feelings, but as signals. They know that every reaction reveals something deeper: fear, curiosity, desire, insecurity, or admiration. When they communicate, they subconsciously mirror the energy they receive but refine it with calmness. This is why their interactions feel grounded and smooth. You don't feel the rush of teenage attraction around them. Instead, you feel a steady emotional rhythm that's both relaxing and exciting. They don't need to impress, they express. This expression, filtered through maturity, becomes their silent charisma. They communicate their worth not by demanding attention, but by radiating composure. That composure is psychologically captivating because it reflects emotional mastery. One of the most fascinating aspects of older women's emotional intelligence is their ability to blend empathy with boundaries. They can be warm and inviting without losing their sense of self. This is a major difference between emotional sensitivity and emotional intelligence. One feels deeply, the other understands deeply. Older women have lived through enough emotional situations to know when to give and when to protect their peace. They no longer chase affection or approval. Instead, they evaluate emotional safety. They know that real connection requires two stable minds, not one overgiver and one taker. So, when they flirt or communicate affection, it's filtered through awareness. They sense emotional imbalances quickly, and if the energy feels off, they gracefully withdraw. That emotional self-regulation is incredibly attractive, especially to people who value maturity. Psychologically, this emotional control also gives older women the ability to lead with emotional cues. Their tone of voice, their choice of words, even their timing, all of it reflects intentionality. When they speak, they often pause at just the right moment, letting silence do the work. That pause isn't hesitation, it's emotional intelligence in action. It allows space for the other person to feel, respond, and engage. Their awareness of timing creates an emotional rhythm that draws you into their world without pressure. This is how they can flirt effortlessly without appearing to try. Their intelligence allows them to create emotional chemistry that feels safe yet thrilling, stable yet mysterious. Furthermore, their emotional intelligence helps them detect authenticity almost instantly. They can sense when someone is pretending, exaggerating, or performing confidence. Because they've seen different shades of emotion throughout their lives, they know the difference between true interest and superficial flattery. This sharp discernment protects them from emotional games. When they do decide to flirt, it's a choice, not a need. They use emotional intelligence as a filter to see if the other person can match their emotional depth. And if you can't, they lose interest not out of arrogance but out of self-respect. Their emotional intelligence demands emotional reciprocity. Another layer of their emotional intelligence lies in their ability to transform vulnerability into power. Younger people often fear vulnerability, seeing it as weakness, but older women understand it as emotional truth. When they open up, they do it intentionally, not to gain sympathy, but to invite connection. They know that emotional authenticity creates trust. And trust is the foundation of attraction that lasts. Their ability to balance openness with control makes them irresistible because they embody both softness and strength. That balance is rare and deeply psychological. It speaks to the subconscious of anyone around them, the human desire to feel both challenged and safe. In essence, older women's emotional intelligence gives them a quiet psychological authority. They don't shout for attention, they command it through emotional depth. Their energy says, "I understand," without uttering the words. It's that emotional fluency that makes loud or boastful. It is calm, grounded, and unshakable. It comes from a place of knowing oneself deeply, the strengths, the flaws, the desires, and the limits. Older women no longer rely on the world to tell them who they are or what makes them valuable. They have already tested the world's opinions, and through experience, they've learned that validation is temporary, but self-respect is permanent. This kind of self-awareness gives them a psychological edge, especially in communication and attraction. When they interact with someone, they bring a sense of authenticity that instantly sets them apart. You can feel their inner peace, their quiet power, and the way they carry themselves without trying to prove anything. That energy is magnetic because it reflects emotional maturity, the kind of confidence that doesn't beg for attention but naturally commands it. Older women have spent years understanding their emotions, refining their boundaries, and mastering the art of self-expression. This awareness gives them clarity in what they want and what they don't. They don't chase excitement for the sake of attention. They pursue alignment. When they flirt, they do it with intention, not as a performance, but as an expression of interest. They don't need to exaggerate their charm because their energy speaks louder than effort. They communicate subtly, often through body language, tone, and carefully chosen words. The beauty of their confidence lies in restraint. They don't overshare or overexpose. They allow curiosity to do the work. In psychology, this is called emotional containment, the ability to hold one's emotions without spilling them everywhere. It creates mystery, stability, and attraction simultaneously. Their self-awareness also gives them the power to control perception. They know how to use presence as a psychological tool. When they walk into a room, they don't rush to fill the silence. They let their stillness speak. This behavior often triggers subconscious curiosity in others. People are drawn to someone who is comfortable in their own skin. It's not about physical appearance or youth. It's about emotional energy. They understand that confidence isn't what you show. It's what you project. It's the subtle assurance that says, I don't need to impress you, but I'm open to connecting with you. That emotional stance feels safe, mature, and attractive because it comes from authenticity, not manipulation. In relationships or flirtation, older women express interest differently because they're no longer driven by insecurity. They've already lived through the noise of validation, the compliments, the comparisons, the social approval, and they've learned how little it truly means. Instead of chasing validation, they invest in connection. They know that attraction built on external validation fades, but attraction built on inner stability lasts. This makes their interactions refreshing and genuine. You can sense that their smiles are real, their laughter honest, and their words thoughtful. They don't perform emotions to be liked. They express them to be understood. That is emotional authenticity at its finest, and it's one of the rarest traits in human connection.